Hey, babies, it's the even more fabulous Mother Love, and I am just so glad to be on this side of life. Okay, I don't know where the mystery hands are coming in. Okay, boy, I'm starting to get a little wet in places. I don't think you should be doing
Oh,
that with me when I'm going on the air with Mr. Keck. Hello, Mr. Keck.
well, hello, Mother Love. What an
Now,
honor.
are you a member of the Keck family that's over at USC at the
Well,
Keck School of
I'm
Medicine?
I'm certainly a member of the Keck family, but not that Keck family.
Well, you know what they say. All of us that have the same last name, we're connected some kind of way.
You know what? I've been trying to get into that family. I am going to find my way somehow.
See, some people just don't take the blessings. I'd have been over there. I go over there and tell them I'm your cousin. You don't. I used to do that when I was a kid. Well, let me just let everybody know who you are and whose you are and what you have done and what
By
you
all means,
continue to do.
please. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this is William Keck. He's an author. He was also one of them creepy, cringy guys we had in the bushes up under the car trying to get a picture of the stars because you used to work with the National Enquirer. I used to get a subscription, just so you know.
You did well. Thank you
I
for
had a
paying my
subscription
salary, Mother
for
Love.
many,
I
many years.
appreciate it. You put me through groceries for in the '90s.
Listen, and I got my weekly edition mailed to my house. And then this is what was so funny. I would get it, and people wouldn't help me pay for the subscription, but they want to read it after I'm finished. So we just pass it through the family. That's what we
You know,
do.
it's so funny. My grandmother also subscribed, and hers would always arrive a week late. And we found out the mailman was taking it home to his wife. And when she was done, then he delivered it to her.
Mhm.
People love their
I should
gossip.
have had a sip of water before you said that. It was almost coming through my nose. Okay, that's a good one, though. That's a good one, Will.
They couldn't
That,
even spend $1.49 a week. They had to steal my grandmother's National Enquirer.
and
Can
then
you
she
believe
probably,
that?
I already knew that. I already knew what was going to happen. So how did you first? Let's talk about when you were just a little fella, and what was life like for you? What was the Cat family about?
Well, you bet. Sure. So I grew up in upstate New York,
Mhm.
and I was an only child. My daddy died when I was 5, so
Oh,
I sort of I always dreamed of having a big family. Did you come from a big family?
it was six in our immediate family. There were 8 of us, and then there were other people that we would wake up in the bed with because their mama got put out or something. So I don't even know how many of us it really was. It could have been 6, could have been 20. I don't know. So and we have an only son,
Well,
and
yeah.
that's people don't really understand what that's like. How was that like for you being the only one? You couldn't even blame it on them.
Well,
That's,
you grew up
they
with
did it.
That's true. My imaginary friend was always guilty. So yeah, I envied big families like yours. You grew up like the Bradfords from Eight Is Enough, or the Brady Bunch, or the Evans family from Good Times. I had no brothers and sisters, so
Mhm.
my TV families became my imaginary families. And then, so when I came of a certain age, my dream was to move out to California and start meeting my imaginary brothers and sisters and Brady Bunch parents. And I did. But the catch was is that the way I got in was through the Enquirer. So instead of meeting them at a dinner table, I was meeting them by crashing their weddings and their funerals and sneaking into their hospital rooms. And so you can imagine they weren't too excited to welcome me into their family.
And especially you're seeing them face to face, and you probably got away with it for so long because you have that face. They would let you into any place. You don't have an intimidating look. Oh, but you was full of skullduggery. Yeah, what? I mean, you came out here to enlighten us, and then you find out. Let me find out. You. It's a picture in your book, and somebody I really love is a picture in the book. You got a really handsome photograph of Dean Martin,
Yeah.
and then you got one where he just looked like just a bag of bones, like he wasn't even breathing. And you guys put that out there.
Well, not only
What were you expecting from us when we see idols like Dean Martin or Sammy Davis Jr. at their worst? Richard Pryor, where he done caught on fire, at their worst, and you can make it a story. Now you know that's a skill set.
I just want to be clear, Mother Love. I did not set Richard Pryor on fire. I
I
did a
know.
lot of sins, horrible things, but Mr. Pryor's inflammation was not of my doing. Yeah, no, listen, I copped to it in the book. It was horrible. I was a 20-something-year-old kid, so thank you for the compliment. But you can imagine when I was like a 23-year-old, you show up to someone's door. I don't look like the typical Enquirer tabloid Fleet Street, kind of reporter you imagine. So I did. I got away with murder, and a lot of people let me into their homes, and they told me their stories, and then they regretted it because those stories, would end up in the paper, and maybe not always exactly as they wanted it to appear. So I had a lot of apologizing to do, as I do in this book. It's my mea culpa. I'm reaching out to these people.
Is this your redemption?
Hopefully,
the dirt you put on people? Well, actually, you didn't, because when I was growing up, they used to protect the celebrities. You didn't know what Dean Martin was doing. You didn't know if he had liquor in that glass or iced tea. And they protected their brands, the studio did. Then all of a sudden you turn around, this is me, and I'm over in the pregnancy section of the CBS. Come over here and take my picture. Okay, that's Mother Love. No, I ain't got no business being in no pregnant of nothing. And they come, and you come.
Yeah.
How did you keep yourself together? Because you had to give a lot of yourself up to be able to, go in and out of people's lives and say, okay, I'm going to make a decision, and this is the story I'm going to present.
Well, I got to tell you, it was like working for the mafia. It was like working for Tony Soprano, because I would do these things that I was told by my mommy and my stepfather not to do, but I was getting praise for them. Oh, great, you lied and you got the story. Terrific. Here's a bonus. And they would just kind of root you on. You can do it. You can get into that hospital room. We know you can. And I mean, one of the stories I tell in the book is I was the first person to land the first interview with Nicole Brown Simpson's family after the tragic murders. And I did it by sneaking into their gated community. And I got into their home, and Nicole Brown's mother took my hand, said, "Thank you so much for coming. How did you know my baby?" And I told the truth. I apologized for the gross invasion of their privacy, but she took a chance on me. She said, "Well, you made all this effort to come into my home. What do you want?"
Oh, see.
Oh my gosh, I had nothing planned, Mother Love, because I never thought I would get this far. So I just came up with a question: how did you tell your grandchildren that their mother was gone? And she said, we sat them down. We said, your mommy is going to be an angel looking out for you. And now you have 4 mommies, your 3 aunts, and me. Every word that she said appeared exactly as she said it. And it established a relationship between the Enquirer and the Brown family that lasted for years. So listen, I did some horrible things, but I tried to present myself with as much class and dignity as possible in those scenarios.
So you did know that what you were doing was like classless and wrong.
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. Oh,
that's my baby. Own it. Just own it. Okay. I got into okay. Now you weren't expecting to get that welcome from the Brown family, I'm sure. And then you go, okay, now what else can I do? Now, were there stories that they told you, or any of the people that you were following, and it should have been a word for that. It should have been called stalking. But technically that's really what you were doing.
Oh, for sure. And I not only...
Did you ever go to jail for it?
No, but I was caught a few times. Do you remember the comedian John Candy?
God rest his soul. I'm still pissed at him for being dead. Okay, go ahead. That was my issue.
I agree. Well, I tried to sneak into his funeral, and I was caught. And so I then hightailed it to the cemetery, and I was there for the entombment, and I was walked away by security as Rhea Perlman and Danny DeVito and Dan Aykroyd, they're all looking at me with daggers. So I mean,
kind of, sort of, Will, kind of, sort of, you deserve that one. You know you did. And you just took the daggers out and you kept on moving. What kept you going? Is it going after the story and getting it, or having the meat of the story, and you could change it, your narrative of what they've said to you?
Well, I got to say, the Enquirer did not just totally make up things. Some of the tabloids, like the Examiner, they're the ones that said Elvis has been sighted in the Bahamas, or
he was in Cancun with us. He was in Cancun with us. Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
So they spent a lot of money to get the story, but then they would embellish. The headline would always be sensationalized, so they could sell as many papers as possible. So, for instance, if a couple they were dating and they were talking about maybe moving in together, they're about to get married. If a couple has an argument, they're on the verge of divorce. So we would find out the truth, and then we would just sort of explode it to the most sensationalized headline possible. And that's
because you do have to have some semblance of the truth in there, or that is slander. Where they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, I get that. And then, you, like I said, They were protecting, the studios protected us. They looked up, made sure you were okay, made sure you were in a safe place. Now it's just all over the place. I've been married for 15 minutes. I want a divorce. You don't even know the guy. Have you ever even passed gas in front of her before? How do you tell me you're gonna be married in 15 minutes? Shut up. Don't be messing up the sanctity of marriage. See, I've been wifing for a long time. So they pissed me off with that. And they all know, and this is not anything don't be coming in here messing up wifing.
Well, has the media ever exposed anything about you or tried to expose?
I don't do anything.
I don't believe
okay, remember
that.
Mike Walker?
Well, I remember Mike Walker.
Okay, Mike Walker. They wanted to get the story on me, but I'm like, I don't do anything. I go to work. I come home. I take care of my husband and my son and other straight people that's in my family. This is what I do. And besides, they can't tell it better than me. I can't call her name right now. She was a reporter on the red carpet, and my husband was behind me. He doesn't let me travel by myself. You get a few death threats, and your husband goes bonkers. Okay, so I go there, and she says, "So, Miss Mother Love, what have you been into?" And I was like, "Oh, just doing my radio thing." And she said, and she looked over. She saw my husband. She said, "You still got the same husband?" I'm like, wait a minute, do you flip a man out like this? See, and I was sent for to come to California. So this isn't something that was on my radar at all. I didn't get the Hollywood handbook. They told me I don't do anything. She said, "Do you still have the same husband?"
Well,
she was working on her third at that time. What kind of time? Why? It's some crazy people out here, and I fit right in with them, and that was what was scary for me. Well, so how about when you come on here, you're this 20-something guy, you're a good-looking guy, you can get in, look at that $1 million watch smile right there. That's going to get you in. And you shut up, Mother Love, don't say it, but you know what you could have did with other young women. Just shut up, Mother Love. So you already heard me. You already heard me. So, I mean, did you ever get into there and say, while you were doing this, that this is really cringeworthy? Because that's what that's your byline on the book.
Absolutely, yes, man.
You got to tell the title of the book.
Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy. That's the subheader. When you step upon a star. Absolutely cringeworthy. I mean, there were some things I had you remember, Andy Griffith, the late great Andy Griffith from the Andy Griffith Show. We got word that his son had passed away, and I had to call and tell him that his son was gone. I broke the news.
He did not know this? How did you know before him?
We got a news tip. There were sources at the hospitals. We had sources at the police station. So we would oftentimes find out things before they did. And so obviously,
like you said, y'all like the mafia. And I used to hear them call Hollywood the Velvet Mafia.
Yes.
What's that mean? And I was like, is it really? Is it really run like? Because it seems like it's run like it used to be a fine oil machine. Now it's just all over every place. Studios are buying up other studios, buying up people's brand and what have you.
Yep.
And how do you protect yourself as an artist when you got people like you out there going through people's trash, seeing what they do? I mean, I would have never thought.
I did go through people's trash. I stole Kelsey Grammer's garbage. From Frasier.
This is the part that got me. You're willing to say so. You put it down in print. Have any of them ever tried to retaliate against you? Because I had heard some stuff about you, baby.
Well, I just mentioned Kelsey Grammer. I stole his garbage. I exposed some secrets about him. And yes, he wrote about me in his book. He devoted 2 pages to William Keck, and you can buy the audiobook and you can hear him with his Dr. Fraser trained voice, and he says, "William Keck, a despicable piece of flesh from the National Enquirer. I invite you to burn in hell. Your mother must be very, very proud of you." And I got to say, Mother Love, my mom was so proud of me that Kelsey Grammer mentioned me in his book. It was a big, big, big event for the Keck household. So all these years later, I felt it was fair for me to tell my version of the story, the accurate version of the story. And, Kelsey, I did share these chapters with the celebrities. I gave them all a chance to respond, and some of them did. Marcia Cross from Desperate Housewives, she wrote an essay in the book. Sybil Shepherd, she spoke on behalf of Bruce Willis, who's no longer able, sadly, to speak. But Kelsey Grammer chose not to respond, but his ex-fiance did. His ex-fiance told me a lot of interesting things that you can read about in the book. How he broke up with her through their therapist. He ended their wedding through their therapist. and she contemplated taking her own life. So,
and that's what people don't understand. You know, it's like those of us, people that are in the military. You know, we really don't know what their cognition is as far as them putting on equipment and going to a battle, going into a gun battle. Firefighters, you know, and it's really difficult because unfortunately, a lot of people in this industry can be very fragile, and you know that's why they say you got to have a thick skin.
That's
you got to have
true.
a thick skin to come up out of this halfway. All right. Okay. So since you went part of the way, okay, who threatened to burn down your house?
Well, that was Bruce Willis. Yeah, Bruce Willis. So Bruce Willis showed up at one of his premieres with a much, much younger woman. I think Bruce.
Why you say it like that?
Well, I think he was 50. She was in her mid-20s, and she was soap opera actress from Days of Our Lives, and she, you know, her boobs were out to here. She stepped out of the limo. You couldn't miss her, couldn't miss them. And so at the after party, I went up to Bruce. I said, "Your date is very lovely." She wasn't there at the moment. I said, "You know, I know she's a soap opera actress, and your first wife, Demi Moore, she was on General Hospital." And he stopped me right there because he saw where I was going. I was implying that he was finding his ladies by watching daytime soap operas. And he didn't want the public to think that super diehard John McClane was watching Young and the Restless trying to pick out his weekend date. So he threatened to burn down my house. He said, "You print a word of that, Keck, I'm going to find out where you live. I'm going to burn down your house and you'll have no place to live."
Wow, he was all up in your grill.
He was. I tell you, I got an extra fire extinguisher and I upped my insurance policy. Just in case.
So you weren't deterred at all. This is a superstar telling you, if you print a word, I'm gonna burn your house down, and gonna tell you the next step. You will have no place to live.
That's correct.
Did you feel threatened by that? I mean,
you know, I thought he was kidding, but he kept on sticking to it. I started smiling. He's like, "No, this isn't funny. You don't do that." I printed it. My house did not burn down, I'm glad to say. And yes, and Sybil Shepherd, his moonlighting co-star, she wrote a nice essay in the book defending him, saying he was probably kidding. He had a great sense of humor. Don't take it personally. So thank you, Sybil and Bruce.
For not burning down your house.
No. Yeah.
You have a lot of legends in your book.
Yeah.
You said earlier you had them because being an only child, you wanted to have brothers and sisters in there.
Yes.
You wanted to be attached to other people, to feel that connectivity.
Yes.
Was it somebody they wanted you to go and interview? Do they pick the stories, the editors, or do you pick the stories and just give them to them?
Well, it depends. I mean, at the Enquirer, it depended on whoever got the tip. We would pick up the phone and we would answer National Enquirer. And it could be a nurse who's not happy with the pay that she's getting or the abuse that she's getting from a senior nurse. It could be a nanny who is disgruntled with her employers. There were sources everywhere. And so then, yes, they would assign the story based on who they thought would be the best reporter for that story. Later in life, when I went legit and I worked for the USA Today and LA Times, I would often pick the stories. I would pick my own victims. So it all depended. But yeah, you never knew where you're going to be sent. One time, I remember it was the morning and I got a call. The editors knew I was a big Dallas fan. I was a fan of the Ewings from Dallas. And he said, "Well, we got a great story for you about Larry Hagman." I'm like, "Oh, great. I get to interview Larry Hagman?" "No, we want you to fly up north and tell the family of the dead man whose liver was transplanted into Larry that their dead relative, his liver is now in J.R. Ewing." So I had to break the news to the family that Bill, that his organ had been transplanted into this multimillionaire. So that could be the start of my day. It could be
that's a hell of a start to a day.
You never knew. One time I was asked to fly to Hawaii, and I was told that Adam West, who played Batman. Batman.
Okay, are we dating ourselves, Will? Thank you very much. Okay.
These are my idols. What can I say?
And I get that. Oh, I patterned my life after. Well, I call myself patterning my life after I met. They brought Dominique Devereaux in to play his sister.
Oh man, yes.
Said, "Here's your bedroom." She said, "Oh no, I don't sleep in the room with my clothes."
I remember Dominique Devereaux, the great late Diane Carroll, one of her best lines when Alexis offered her champagne, she returned it and said, "This champagne is burned." She's the only one who could give it back to Joan Collins.
And anybody. She wasn't afraid of any Dominique Devereaux. If I saw her and a bear in a fight, I'd get a bear a stick.
Oh, absolutely.
I loved the Ewings. I did. I loved them all.
Well, that was Dynasty. The Dynasty. There was Dynasty in Dallas. All these.
Dallas was with J.R. Ewing.
Yes,
and Dynasty is with Robert Forsythe now.
John Forsythe, Linda Evans, Joan Collins, and of course Diane Carroll. So anyway, I had to fly to Hawaii because Adam West's daughter was in prison for trying to kill her in-laws. She had taken a vase and she bopped it over her mother-in-law's head, bam! And she took a phone and she slammed it over her father-in-law's head, pow! And so she was in prison for, I think, a few years. And I was called to go into that prison, and she came out in an orange jumpsuit, just like Orange is the New Black. She gave me an interview. And then in my hotel room in Hawaii, my phone rang that night. And who do you think was calling me? It was Adam West.
Adam West. He gave you the tip that his daughter was in jail?
No, somebody else. But Adam West, he called, and I thought he was going to scream at me. He said, William, I want to thank you for being a good reporter and flying to Hawaii to get the truth. And he worked with me. He gave me photos, and he was so smart because by the time this article came out in the Enquirer, it wasn't a scandal. It was Adam West, Batman to the rescue, raising grandsons as daughter does time. So he worked me, he worked the Enquirer and got a great piece out of it that made him look like a real life hero. So there were ways to trick the Enquirer, work with the Enquirer, because nobody wanted to talk to us. So when a celebrity did, we bent over backwards for them.
Okay, that would be money in the bank. Besides the Brown family, who else were you surprised by who allowed you to come in? And who said, I want him, I want none of that's coming close to me? Did you get cussed out a lot?
Did you ever watch Little House on the Prairie?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Laura Ingalls. See, now you're
Laura Ingalls. Well, I showed up at Melissa Gilbert, Laura Ingalls' house because I'd heard that she was engaged. And she saw the little 20-year-old face. She invited me in. She showed me her engagement ring, gave me the whole story, and I thanked her. And the Enquirer was like, well, now obviously you're best friends with Melissa Gilbert. Get invited to the wedding. And so I was sent back, and then it's not going over so well. You know, she's like, leave me alone. So I ended up crashing her wedding. I was outside of her home, her father's home, on New Year's Day. And I was expecting a covered wagon to show up with the whole Ingalls family, but that didn't happen. But listen, so she wasn't happy about that. But all these years later, Melissa and I have become friendly, and she also wrote a lovely essay in my book. And
see, that says something about your scum integrity.
Well,
because even the gangsters got some rules and regulations. Even the Velvet Mafia, they have rules and regulations that one must abide by, so one doesn't come up with parts missing.
Well, I will think.
Were you ever afraid at any place where you said, "Why am I taking money? This is crazy"?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely terrified. I was also a big fan of the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. So I said, if there's ever a chance to do a story on Lindsay Wagner, then please, let me do it. So they said, hey, it's your lucky day. We got a Lindsay Wagner story for you. I'm like, great. Well, where am I meeting her? Nope. Her father died, and we want you to crash his funeral and find out who her young boy toy is she's dating. So listen, I was a big fan.
Wait a minute, we on the video, and I feel like I got something on me. I mean, you going to somebody's funeral.
I know. The first
is that what you're most known for, going to inform people of the losses in their families in their life?
Well, I'll tell you that. Here's the deal. So as I mentioned, when I came out to California, I wanted to meet my legends. Lucille Ball had just died, and I really had wanted to meet Lucy. So I wanted to meet these legends, and so a lot of times that meant going to funerals.
Well, yeah, this is true.
Dean Martin, we mentioned Dean Martin earlier. I was in a tree at Dean Martin's funeral. I was hiding up in a tree, and I could see Frank Sinatra and Don Rickles and Tony Danza all arriving to sign the guest book and then go into the chapel. So yeah, I did a lot of snooping, but that's just the first quarter of the book. But then it goes on to crashing weddings and and christenings. And,
Oh, you even made it to the christening, the baby christening. See, you know why? I said this to women all the time. If you're going to have a baby shower, make sure you invite men. And they go, men are not supposed to be at the baby shower. I said, no, invite men. And they said, why? I said, because men don't know what to buy a baby. And they'll come in with a $2,000 setup. They don't even call it strollers anymore, a moving device or whatever. And because you guys don't know what to get.
that is absolutely true. No idea. No.
And you'll just say, like, and you, I bet you go, now that they have like the bridal registries and the baby shower registries, you'll go in and just go, okay, give me 10 things, get 10 things off the list and just wrap it up and send it to them. I'm like,
a gift card to Chili's. Babies like Chili's, right?
I'm like, can I get him to go with me to buy a car? You guys, and it's hilarious though. It is really, and men get into it a lot more than women do that. So this is what y'all been doing at the baby shower. You crashed a baby shower.
Well, so what I did was worse. I crashed. I crashed a newborn mother's hospital room as she was breastfeeding her newborn baby, to find out the name of the baby, the weight of the baby, and how they named the baby the name they did. So this was Connie Selica from Hotel. She was on Hotel, and she was also on
I know who Connie Selica is.
Her husband was John Tesh, who hosts Entertainment Tonight.
Are they still married? Are they still married?
They are still married, yes. And so I called them and I said, hey, listen, guys, I want to give you a heads up. You're in my book. I crashed your hospital room when you had your baby 30 years ago. So they called me back, and he thought it was hysterical. He thought it was brilliant how I got in. She was not happy about it, especially that the breast was out as I was in there talking to her.
Life-sustaining mechanisms, and you have just come here and disrupted dinner time. What is wrong with you, man?
Well, you know what? I deserve all the scolding I'm getting. Slap, slap, slap. But listen, John Tesh and Connie Selica, they are born-again Christians. They're all about the power of forgiveness. They said, we're going to check on you, make sure you're legit. We had some friends in common. And Connie's only request was, don't print this horrible photo of my daughter. We're going to send you a lovely family photo. And they very publicly in my book absolved me of my sins.
See, that's power. You know what they say? God watches over old folks, babies, and fools. I ain't gonna even tell you which category we in. You know, I know he's watching over my food crazy self. Oh no, and that's one of the things I really fell in love with them, because I love both of them, and I got the chance to chat with John on several occasions. And Connie was just, like, she was, girl, come on over here, let's sit down and do so and so and such and such. So and we don't have a lot of that in Hollywood. You know,
that's so true.
And or it's on the fringes. Oh, this is the one that give me. Oh, God knows my heart. He do, and he know when you lying, and she know when you up to some skullduggery. So don't even try to act like you trying to fool anybody. And do you feel like you have really been absolved?
Well,
or you gonna be cleaning this up for a long time. I mean, your book is like over 400 pages long. And you got some of the stuff to make you throw the book across the room.
I do feel absolved, and I feel that I was given forgiveness by a lot of these people that I wronged back in the day. And when I was finishing the book, I realized that I had learned lessons from all of these experiences. All of these things, I was given a choice to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. I talk about a couple high-speed chases. I chased Britney Spears to the very end of the 405, and that went on for about 3 hours. But I also was in a high-speed chase with Elizabeth Taylor. And I pulled over on the side of the road and I let her go because I didn't want there to be another Princess Diana incident. So I learned things from all these experiences, Mother Love. And at the end of every chapter, I have a lesson learned. And I think that these are lessons that people can relate to and apply to their own lives. It's never too late to change. You don't have to be the same person, the same fool that you were in your 20s when you didn't know better.
Oh, stuck on stupid, paused on ignorant, parked on dumb, and just knew I was going to live forever.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm ashamed of some of the things that I did in my teens and 20s, but that's what you do in your teens and 20s.
You do stupid stuff. What's stupid is, when it becomes stupid, is when you don't get the lesson, when you ignore the lesson. This is what every day is about. You get up, you wake up, you jump out of bed. What are you happy to leap out of the bed for? And when you're going through this, what made you get up and jump out the bed or out the window or fall out the tree or whatever kind of crazy stuff to keep you going?
Well, this was early in my career, and one of your readers just wrote, someone just wrote in and said, "Oh, Janie Davis. Oh, what's the name of my book? I'm always happy to tell you, Janie. It's When You Step Upon a Star." So this is my foot stepping on one of the Hollywood Walk of Fame stars. Stepping in it is what I did. So
up to your neck almost, you know. I mean, and it's really a wonder, and it does say something to your credibility. The fact that you own it, the fact that you were willing to write about it, you were willing to speak the truth and put it down on paper. You know, you're willing to leave a paper trail so others can learn. We were taught a long time ago, we were taught that you don't want to meet the celebrities that you love because you'll find out that they are not nice people.
Well,
who did you meet that you found out was not a nice person?
Well, I was beaten up by a celebrity. I was pummeled on his front lawn. I was bloodied. I had to go to the hospital. He was not happy when I showed up, and there were some photos that we'd received of him in an incriminating situation with another woman. And so, he pounded me. And that's the one celebrity I don't name in the book because we signed a document back in the day.
I got you.
Agreement. I got a little money, but so little. What he made it.
You just better know this. I am Mother Love. I don't know everybody, but I know everybody else. I know everything, but I know everything else. And did you find it like kind of uncanny when other celebrities would rat out other celebrities?
Absolutely. But there were some celebrities who would rat themselves out. Roseanne, remember Roseanne?
Oh, she used to write her own. She used to write her own press and send y'all the story.
Absolutely. When she was married to Tom Arnold, they also subscribed to the Enquirer. If they weren't in the Enquirer, they were upset, and they would do something that week to make sure they got in the Enquirer. They loved it.
And when we were first talking about that, she said, "Me and Tom, we write our better stories. We'll just send them to her." She's a funny lady. She's a funny
lady. Absolutely.
And I had, you hear stories about entertainers, and you find out that they're wrong, or you find out that they are right, and you find out they are not nice people. Yeah. There's some not nice people that work in this town and work in this industry who think that God's gift to men, women, children, boys, cats, dogs, cars, whatever.
You're absolutely
and they crap
right.
Those things.
Yeah.
What to you? I mean, you've seen a lot of people and talked to a lot of people who are willing to bear their story to you, and who you were willing to climb up in a tree to get a story for. When you said, I'm just not gonna turn this one in. You don't have to tell me who, but have you ever felt like you were in that position where you said, you know what, this is not gonna bode well for anybody?
Oh, absolutely. I told you about the story with Andy Griffith. I called.
And that's just insane to me. I'm still trying to wrap that around my head. You got to go tell. Okay.
Well, but what's awful, I mean, he obviously was devastated. And I said, I'm so sorry. I let him go. I told my editors, they said, call him back. Get some quotes. And I absolutely refused. And then they said, call his co-stars. Call Don Knotts and Jim Nabors. And I did not do that either. I mean, we've all lost people. We know how horrible that is. And the last thing you needed is to be hounded by the press. So no, I made the right decision. And later in life, I grew. And this was years ago. I went on, as I said, to work I had a column in TV Guide for 6 years, and I worked for the Hallmark channel for 7 years. And in that position, I got to invite these celebrities on to come play with me and to talk about extremes, going from the Enquirer, where I was digging into every little juicy bit I could, to working for Hallmark, where my job was to protect them, to keep their secrets. The only secrets we wanted was how they raised their puppies and their chocolate chip cookie recipes. Those were the big secrets we were trying to get out of these stars back then. So they got to know me in a different capacity, and that's why so many of them, when I reached out to them, agreed to contribute to my book.
What's the one you still want to get?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you, one of the people who I had a lot of hard times with was Victoria Principal. You said you were a Dallas fan. She played Pam Ewing. I was obsessed with her. I'm not kidding. I so wanted to meet her that when I first came out here, this is before I worked for the Enquirer, I booked an appointment with her husband, who was one of the Hollywood's leading plastic surgeons, Dr. Harry Glassman. I booked an appointment for a nose job in hopes that I could get to her. And I went ahead with the nose job.
Yeah.
I got the nose job. I met Victoria. and we were friendly, and then things happened and we weren't friendly. And so when I wrote this book, she called me.
Mhm.
She called me and we had an hour conversation off the record. She asked that I not write about it, but
Mhm.
it did help heal old wounds. And I do love my nose that I got from Dr.
I
Harry.
would, you know what? If you hadn't told me, I would have never known.
Well,
I mean, but I mean, the things that you are willing to go through, have gone through to get the story. I mean, you went to her husband as a patient, so you
yes.
could get a new job, so you could meet somebody.
Yeah, I did. I absolutely did. I mean, I didn't think I was going to take it that far,
Mhm.
but I didn't like my nose anyway. And he seemed to be very good at what he did. So I'm like, why not?
You do what you got to do, baby. What the Lord has forgotten, we can fill it out with cotton.
You do what you got to do. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay, you've been with all these entertainers. You've been around them. You've been, you've got their stories. And what made you decide to put it in a book, to write it down and make it plain?
Well, I knew I wanted to write a book at some point, but I didn't exactly know what the book would be.
Mhm.
I had all these stories, and it was during COVID. It was during the quarantine when I had that time to sit in my garage with all these bins of notebooks and photographs and tape recorded interviews. And I saved every clipping of every article I did. And I pulled the ones that I thought were the most interesting.
Mhm.
A lot of them were action oriented, where I was caught, or where I was chasing, where I was being chased, where I was climbing in trees and running over bushes. So it reads like a movie, I think, almost.
It really does. And the way you break it down, and I just love your titles to the books, the title for each chapter. I mean, it makes you want to read it, makes you want to continue to read it. And it's a big book. And
it is loaded with 200 photos, original
photos. I know. I mean, you could have made a killing off of this. You could have sold your story to the National Enquirer.
Well, here's what's funny. When the Enquirer came back into the news a few months ago, this was during the Donald Trump's trial for the catch and kill, and David Pecker, the publisher of the Enquirer, had to take the stand. I thought the Enquirer was going to kind of become back in fashion, but the Enquirer is struggling to stay afloat. It's very hard to find them in the supermarket now. If you go onto their website, they have not updated their website in about 3 years. One of the lead stories is why James Caan from The Godfather, why he can't find the right woman. Well, he's been dead for 3 years.
Okay.
That's why he can't find the right lady.
See, and that's what a lot of people think, and they'll believe everything that's in the Enquirer. We had a friend who was a devout. His kids used to give him subscriptions every year, and so this year's this one, this year's that. So he believed everything. And I said, you do know that a lot of this is fiction. He said, but that don't mean nothing, daughter. That don't mean nothing. Just what they said to you. I believe a lot of that stuff, because them Hollywood people, y'all, they kind of nasty. I was like, wow. Tell us how you really feel.
Yes.
And then when people's families, read about them. I mean, I was heartbroken when Whitney Houston passed away.
Oh.
And they had the pictures of what her bathroom. That could have been anybody's bathroom. How did we not know that? There was nothing to prove to me that was actually her bathroom.
Well,
then, why would you do that to somebody you claim you love?
Well, what was worse than that, Mother Love, is they had a photo of her in her casket. That was always big money for the Enquirer when they got a final photo, they would call it. And this started back in 1977 when Elvis Presley died.
Oh yeah.
They put that photo of him in his coffin on the cover, and it sold bajillions. And from that point on, the Enquirer became solely about reporting on celebrities' lives. And they've had they had Michael Jackson's picture after he passed, and River Phoenix. It's a horrible, ghoulish thing. James Brown. They had
man.
That's the ultimate disgraceful betrayal of humanity, I think. And thank goodness I was never involved in anything like that. I will say that.
And that's a plus, because some people that are the paparazzi and ambulance chasers, they will do anything. Like they have no sense of morality. But when you start outing your children, start talking about somebody else's kids, those are fighting words.
It's amazing how many have done that. I mean, there are some celebrities who legitimately are horrible parents, and I guess it is the child's right.
Horrible parents. Yes, some people shouldn't procreate.
Most people shouldn't procreate. That's
Okay.
my opinion.
So you obviously don't have kids.
I have furry kids.
You got four-legged kids.
Well, there's 7 legs among 3 of them.
I don't even want to know what that math is.
No. One of the dogs was born without a leg, so he's got a dangler. Yeah. But yeah, no, they're easier to control, and I know they're not going to sell any secrets, and they know all my secrets.
Right.
They know everything that's going on in this house.
And listen, sometimes that's a good thing, because that's kind of like therapy. You can go home and jump up and down, screaming, and the dog's just gonna look at you like, "Okay, baby, what's the matter? What I need? You need me to come over and lick on your face? You need me?"
Do you have pets?
No, I don't. I have grandchildren.
Oh, wonderful, fantastic.
Pets have to be able to drive, wash dishes, go to the laundromat, go to the grocery store, and bring the stuff back.
So tell me this: do your grandchildren care about celebrities?
No,
they don't.
They don't.
They're not following.
They're like, that's what she does. That not her, their friends are like, "Oh my God, mother loves you. Oh my God, she really your grandma." And she was like, "Why would I go around saying she's my grandmother? She's not my grandmother." And they don't get it. They don't get it. They didn't even know I had a job.
So do you think why do you think it is? Because I would think that they would have been exposed to.
They have been exposed to it. Our oldest grandson is destined. He's going to perform on Broadway. He is an absolutely amazing entertainer. He can sing. He can dance. He's off book in like 3 days. And I don't care how long the production is. He is choreographing for other schools and what. So he's doing well. Our other two granddaughters, they're both in the cheerleading. Oh, they don't get me wrong. Oh, they love to be in the spotlight. They only want to use me to help them pick up boys and girls. That's all. I'm doing.
Well, everything's changed now, because Enquirer doesn't need. There's no need for the Enquirer, because now celebrities, for the most part, are breaking their own news through social media.
And we can go to social media and tell the story anyway. This is why I tell you, you can't blackmail black people, because we'll tell the story ourselves. You can't blackmail. You ain't mention nobody in there. Listen, because we'll keep it all close to the chest. And that's what broke my heart about whoever put those pictures out there about Whitney Houston in her darkest hour, that you would do this, and not want to help uplift her and help her get strong. And it was just kind of like, she was just kind of like out there. You could see the light had gone out in her eyes.
I know.
And that's what bothers me, especially with the young people that come into this business.
I did speak to Whitney and Bobby once. I was in Vegas, and I was at a Divas Live concert. And at the after party, I went up to Whitney and Bobby, and I asked them, I said, Bobby, what's something about Whitney that people would be really surprised to know? And he told me that she likes to vacuum in the middle of the night at all hours. She's vacuuming. And at the time, I thought it was funny, but now in hindsight, I realize why she was up in the middle of the night vacuuming, because of her addiction, because of cocaine, and it's not a funny thing anymore. Looking back.
It was never a funny thing.
I adored her. And the world was robbed of what we should have had with that beautiful voice for decades, because
her and Michael Jackson
and drugs.
And all of them, all these people, I mean, just all the talent, has gone out. And then we get kind of like cookie cutter talent. I mean, you rarely can find a singer, an authentic singer, that can sing without using the keyboard.
Absolutely.
And then too, like you said, they're telling their own story. So
That's right.
We can be our own gossip columnists. You want to know about my love life? Just turn on the radio someplace. I'm probably telling some kind of crazy story.
That's right.
So we can tell the better story, but the kids are, unfortunately, a lot of the young people now are getting into it for the wrong reasons. I mean, there's an art form to this.
That's right.
And people get out of their lane. I had a manager one time who said, "We're going to get you singing lessons, mother love." I'm like, "Singing what?" He said, "So you could start." I'm like, "We ain't gonna waste no money on that." He said, "I'm gonna get you the best voice coach." I said, "Sir, I can't carry a tune in a push cart. We're not gonna waste our money on that." He didn't believe me. He made me go I went to the first one. As soon as I opened up my mouth, the guy got up. He said, "Mother love, I love listening to you on the radio. You stay there in the radio."
Yeah, right. It's true.
He was straight up, and this is one of the greatest voice coaches. And he said, Quincy Jones said it to me one time. He said, "You don't need to sing Mother Love. You talk pretty." So who are the people who you like?
What's that?
I said, who are the people that I keep getting distracted?
Oh, oh, oh. Well, one of my dogs is barking in the background, so
that's what I hear.
I don't know if you hear that, but I mean,
No.
yeah, it's you talk about Quincy. These are the legends, and I wonder if there are little people like us out there who are dreaming of meeting their idols someday, because it's so different now.
Mhm.
TV and movies were just so innocent with E.T. and Gremlins and Gilligan's Island and Fantasy Island. TV was this kind of wonderful escapist fantasy place to get away from the world's problems.
Mhm.
And I just wonder now, there's some wonderful TV, but Breaking Bad and things that are just kind of just so dark, and American Horror Story and the Menendez, it's not that kind of escapist feeling that we were so lucky to have when we were kids. So I wonder if people will have kind of that same fascination to grow up and come to Hollywood to meet these people. I don't know. I think it's going to be something different. I think
It's
these.
gonna be. I think so too. And then, I mean, being a hands-on kind of reporter like you are, what is your take on artificial intelligence and the fact that they can manipulate us? You take our name, image, and likeness, and we have no privacy anymore. You know, everything is gone. The brand you worked on, everything. How do you think that will? Because you said the National Enquirer is like struggling. How do you think that's going to affect us as a society and as a business in the entertainment industry?
Well, several times I call my friends and I say, "Oh my gosh, have you seen this photo? This horrible thing has happened." And then they say, "That's not true. That's an invention." And it looks so real now, these videos. It's shocking. And there was a story, remember the War of the Worlds story way back when with
Mhm.
Orson Welles?
Oh,
And
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles directed Citizen Kane. He's been dead for a long time, but he had a radio show. And on this radio show, they presented a story, a fake story of an alien landing and an invasion. But it was presented as if it was real. And back then, in the 40s, people were not so used to movies and TV, and they believed it was true. They believed that aliens actually were invading their planet, and hysteria happened back then. So I think we're going to see more of that. I think people are going to have a hard time knowing what's real and what's not, and there's going to be some real consequences from that.
And that's a part. I don't think that they're looking at the big picture, or maybe they are looking at the big picture. These are the powers that be who are involved in all this artificial intelligence to want to have more control over people, over the masses, and especially over our children who are so impressionable. What would you say to an up and coming young reporter who maybe not want to be a skullduggerous as you are or have been, but then like you said earlier, people are making up their own stories. What would be some couple of nuggets that you would want to share with the up and coming journalist and what this business really means?
Well, I would ask yourself why you want to be a journalist. First of all, there are very few opportunities now for print journalists. When I came here, there was Entertainment Weekly and all these magazines that are no longer around anymore. And USA Today even is now just kind of a pamphlet. When I worked, like multiple page stories. So there's not really an opportunity to really write and express. There's very few opportunities there. So I would really ask, why do you want to be a reporter? What is the beat that you want to cover? And are there other ways that you can maybe express yourself as a writer? Or TV journalism is also something to consider, but that's changed too. It's hard to tell now what you're watching, if it's true or not. And there's a slant with everything. Fox News, we know about Fox News that they're not supposed to even call themselves a news channel anymore. They're supposed to be an entertainment channel.
They were never a news channel, but
Thank you.
They were never a news channel. See, that was in somebody else's head that said, no, this is a legitimate journal. No, it's not. It's an entertainment. It's like the Enquirer on TV.
But I think it's important to know what the other sides are reporting.
Right.
I personally, I don't know do we avoid politics on your show, Dr. Motherlove?
Please, honey. Oh, please. You don't even know. I have to sit down and put stuff down. Don't let me get my blood pressure up. I'm like, when is it going to be over? Please. Oh my God.
I know. But listen, I have my Kamala flag hanging outside my house. and I'm praying things turn out well there for that. But I make sure to see what the other side's reporting,
Mhm.
because they're being fed things that aren't true. We're also being fed things that aren't true. It's important to know what everybody's hearing so that we can kind of weed out fact from fiction. And it's also important for us to talk like we are and find out what our similarities are.
Mhm.
Because fundamentally, we want to feel safe, we want to feel happy, we want our families to be happy. We all want the same thing. And the key is just try to come together and find unity. And then when we get a candidate, support that person and not just try to tear that person down. I really
It's
hope
so
things
petty.
are,
It
yeah.
is just so petty.
I,
And really, they're making themselves look bad.
oh,
We don't have to do anything but register and show up to vote. Cast your ballot for whomever you choose to be, but just make sure you understand that you are making a choice for your life. And if you don't vote, you have no voice. You
and you
don't
have no
vote,
right to complain if you don't vote. And
you want to participate. And
that's
that's why it's
right.
important for our young people to know that we do see them. We do a lot of stuff I don't understand. I mean, but looking back at it in retrospect, I do, because we too were in our 20s at one time. And they've got life coming at them so fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of them really don't know what to do. And so they're just kind of like throwing it up against the wall to see if it sticks. And a lot of it doesn't stick. And I think that comes because we're the authoritative figures now, Will. I don't know how I got up here to be. I wasn't looking for this one. Ask me. Go ahead. You can ask me. Say, Mother Love, when did you get old?
Mother Love, when did you get old?
Tomorrow. I don't have time for that crap today.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. If I see you tomorrow and in 10 years, you're never going to be old. You don't have it in you. You have that eternal youthful gene in you. There's that light in you that's never going to go off.
I don't take it. I do not take life serious. That's a big problem. You see, that's what we were looking at in the Enquirer. We were looking for that outlet. Now you have an outlet. Now this is a really big book. How long did it take you to get this in order?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mentioned how I really started working on it a lot during the quarantine, but this has been in the works really for over 10 years. And the one of the big things was the photos, just kind of going through all these photos and deciding what to put in, and just digging out old photo albums. So it was a long process. And I feel that I can kind of close the door on my Hollywood life now. I'm sort of like getting rid of things and downsizing.
Okay, send some of them to me. I like stuff. I like clutter.
Wow, you do? Do you collect anything? What?
Well, not anything. But I got a pretty good eye for stuff like that. You want to give stuff away.
Well, it's Halloween time, so I mean, I was decorating my house today, but for every one thing I displayed, I threw 10 things away.
Because you don't need it all.
Huh?
You don't need it all.
You don't. I have a big pile of bones and zombies and witch hats outside my house right now, and I'm going to have the trash just come and take it away. I don't need it. Less is more. So I'm really trying. This book was a way to kind of cleanse the past and create an opening for a positive future. That's my hope. I got this off my brain, but I also want to say there's a lot of humor in the book. I mean,
it's hilarious, and you can't make a lot of that stuff you could not make up on a bet.
There's a lot of silliness. You remember Kojak, Telly Savalas?
Oh wait, I'm gonna have a moment.
So
he was my first Hollywood fan when I came to LA.
Really?
Him, Rod Steiger, and Elizabeth Taylor when she was in the hospital. And they would listen to me at night, and I was like, I don't believe you. This ain't Telly Savalas. Give me your phone. He gave me his phone number. I called him back. It was Telly Savalas.
Wow. Oh my. Who loves you, baby?
Telly.
Well, it's in the book. We got a tip that Telly had been buried in an unmarked grave. That his grave had never received a tombstone. His wife had just not put one in 4 months after his death. So in the Enquirer is a picture of me pointing to this empty plot of grass. Scandal, Hollywood scandal, beloved Kojak star buried without a tombstone. So I had to schlep up there every couple months and say, still 6 months now, no tombstone for poor Telly. I got so sick of this in the summertime, going over the hill to Burbank, that I came up with a plan. And I called the cemetery pretending to be one of the family members. And I said, what's going on? And they said, well, as you know, your family's not getting along. So the Stone's been here now for months, but we can never get you all together to agree to come at the same time for a ceremony. So I said, listen, you're right. We're not getting along. Would you do me a favor? Would you call up all the family and have them meet Tuesday at 4 o'clock, and we'll get this stone installed for Uncle Telly. So that's what happened. And we were there with a camera, and we got pictures of Telly's stone finally being put in place. So, I mean, some bizarre stunts like this. The mother from Family Ties, Meredith Baxter.
Oh, that was a shocker, wasn't it?
Oh, well, yeah. This is so she's with a wife now, but she had 3 husbands before that, and I was at one of her weddings to a man, and I snuck in there. And the key to sneaking into a celebrity wedding, it's very easy. Just get a gift. So I went to Target. I got a $5 picture frame, but I wrapped it as if it was from Tiffany's, and I walked right in with my little baby blue gift and past security, and I waved. I put it down, and then my date and I mingled until all the place cards had been taken for the tables except for 2. And we grabbed those and we sat down. And when it was time for the cake cutting, I jumped up with the other family members and got a picture of Meredith cutting the cake. And that picture appeared in that week's Enquirer.
You know what? You know, I said this earlier. God watch over old folks, babies, and foods. And you just been foolish. What made you say, what did you learn most about yourself during this journey and during COVID?
Well, I think, I think it's something I thought you were going to ask is what made me finally just decide I was
going to ask you that.
And that's great. I would love to answer that. So I was actually at my college roommate's wedding on Staten Island. Mm-hmm. And I had taken the week off, and I was coming back on the ferry. And when I got on land, there was a newsstand, and they had put out the new issue of the Enquirer. And I wondered if one of my stories was going to be on the cover. I didn't know what was going to be selected. None of my stories were on the cover. Instead, it was the most nasty exploitative cover, and the main image was of Raquel Welch, the beautiful movie star Raquel Welch, but there was a photo that was taken of her looking just horrible, despondent, sad. It almost looked like she was standing on a bridge thinking about taking her life. And next to that, they put a photo of her looking all glam, and the headline was "The Sad, Lonely Life of Raquel Welch." And I'm like, I can't, this can't be my career. I get depressed. I write about my battle with depression in the book and how I was able to get past that. Mm-hmm. I can't take money from an organization that is exploiting people's pain and suffering. So I gave notice not long after that and started fresh. Nobody wanted me. After I left the Enquirer, I was poisoned. So I took a job at Soap Opera Digest. I was reporting on the stars of Days of Our Lives and The Bold and the Beautiful. And I got in trouble there too, because the Enquirer hadn't quit me. I was still exposing these soap opera stars' lives. There was this lovely actress from Days of Our Lives, and she ended up telling me how she and her boyfriend were making home adult movies. And so I put that in so I got in trouble there. I got fired from Soap Opera Digest, and then I had to slowly build my way back up.
And look at you now. Tell people how they can get a copy of the book and what's your next project.
Thank you. Well, the book is available on Amazon. When You Step Upon a Star. You can also go onto my website, whenyoustepUponAstar.com. You can follow me on Instagram, When You Step Upon a Star. It's available on Kindle, Apple Books. If you want to go to BarnesandNoble.com, lots of ways to get it. And I am, I'm doing a lot with the book. I'm actually headed to the South Fork Ranch. I'm going to the South Fork Ranch in Dallas to offer my book, but I'm going to be doing panels there, moderating panels with Linda Gray and Patrick Duffy and all the stars of Dallas. Charlene
He's
Tilton.
aged well, Patrick Duffy.
Isn't he a stud still? Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, Hollywood is not kind to everybody.
That is true. Yes. And we don't need to name the people who've had too much surgery.
Well, yeah. I can't even think. Some people do it because they need it and they want it's going to make them feel better about themselves. Good for you. Just make sure you take care of yourself and your mental health. And before we go, because it's finally being able.
90 seconds.
How she get to 90 seconds? You know what that says? We're just going to have another conversation.
I would love to.
And I want to thank Harlan. I love him so much. I'm glad that he has allowed us to get connected. Please know that we are here for you. Let us know, because you got some stories to tell, and I can't wait to get finished reading it. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I am going to want an autographed copy.
Oh, absolutely.
To my very lovely mother love. I love you, mother love.
60
send your address, and I'll put one off right away with a
Thank you
bookmark
so
too.
much. So what
Merry
you're going
Christmas.
down to Dallas, or is there another book on the horizon?
Oh yeah. I've just started, and it's actually going to be, again, embracing my love of nostalgia TV, but it's going to be kind of a fictionalized fantasy version of getting to come into the world of the '80s and play with all these shows. And that was another part of my dream, if I was able to go on the Love Boat or visit Fantasy Island. So it's going to be that kind of a book. That's what I'm working on now.
Well, just so you know, my passport is up to date, and I'm not beyond being in the luggage when you go traveling.
Let's go to Fantasy Island and
Let's
make our
go to
fantasy
Fantasy
come
Island.
true.
Oh my goodness. It has been such a joy to chat with you, Will. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Harlan, for allowing us to get together with each other. And remember this, babies, no matter how big or tall, short or small, thick or thin, it matters not what skin you